When you can't make it to City Hall or the school board meetings, local journalists from Duluth News-Tribune will be there to report the facts and get your questions answered. Local news works for you. Stay up to date at DuluthNewsTribune.com.
Hello, Northlanders. It's Thursday, May 16th. I'm Wyatt Buckner, the Duluth News-Tribune Minute, presented by Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union.
The average MPECU member saves over $785 a year in better rates and lower fees. And with MPECU, every ATM is your ATM. With their free checking program, you get ATM fee reimbursements at any ATM anywhere in the U.S. Check out Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union services online at mpecu.com or visit their offices in downtown Duluth, Arrowhead Road, or Miller Trunk Highway.
Now here's today's headlines. Plans for a residential and retail development on the site of the former Central High School took another couple steps forward Tuesday as the Duluth's Planning Commission signed off on an environmental review of the project and agreed it should be eligible to receive sizable tax subsidies. Dubbed Incline Village, the anticipated $450 million to $500 million project could bring 1,180 new housing units, 120 condominiums, and 80,000 square feet of retail space to the site, located off Central Entrance and H. Courtney Drive. Commissioners unanimously voted to adopt a final alternative urban area-wide review for the development. This document extensively examines the effects the project could have on the area and lays out what should be done to minimize any potential negative impacts. The adopted review is the first of its kind conducted by the city, according to Duluth senior planner Kyle Deming. Deming said state officials accepted the developer's findings that, based on an archaeological survey, it was unlikely to contain culturally significant remains or historic artifacts in need of special protection. The Planning Commission also unanimously agreed that projects should be eligible to receive tax increment financing, a form of public subsidy that uses new taxes generated by a project to cover certain eligible expenses. A document approved Tuesday contemplates the capture and return of up to $74.3 million in property taxes to the developer, plus another $7.4 million in interest over 25 years. As of 2051, when the TIF support expires, all property taxes would flow in full to local taxing authorities, including the city, county, and school district. Tax increment financing is permitted only in cases where a project would be impossible if not for the assistance. The would-be developers of Incline Village are two New York-based entities named Chester Creek View LLC and Incline Plaza Development LLC. The proposed TIF package for the project will now advance to the Duluth Economic Development Authority for its consideration. If DEDA supports the plan, it will then go to the City Council for a vote, likely in mid-June. Plans call for the development to be built in phases, likely over 7 to 10 years. The first phase would include 2 interconnected 60-unit condominium buildings and a 220-unit apartment complex. Nerdy, Chastity Brown, and Bad Bad Hats will be among this year's performers at Glenn Sheen's Concerts on the Pier series, which runs Wednesday evenings from July 3rd to August 28th. The historic estate, owned and managed as a museum by the University of Minnesota Duluth, announced this year's lineup at a Wednesday morning news conference held on the pier where performers stand during their sets. The popular series typically attracts audiences both by land and by water, with music fans arriving in a wide variety of lake-going vessels, from yachts to inner tubes. For the first time in the history of the series, which launched in 2014 and has developed into a statewide draw, opening acts are scheduled for each concert. Some of Duluth's highest-profile artists will appear alongside well-known performers from the Twin Cities area. The most buzzworthy bill is a July 24th concert featuring Nerdy, a hip-hop artist who exploded in popularity with online videos in 2020 and has since become one of the Twin Cities' most prominent live performers. On 2 dates last month, he performed an evening-length collaboration with the Minnesota Orchestra. At Glenn Sheen, Nerdy will share a bill with Duluth funk stalwarts Boku Frequency. Duluth acts headlining concerts on the pier shows this summer include Father Hennepin, featuring Duluth Homegrown Music Festival founder Scott Starfire Lunt on July 3rd, Boss Mama and the Jebberhooch on July 10th, Der Aicho Rhythm Section, featuring Lowe's Alan Sparhawk on July 31st, country artist Sydney Hansen, with the acclaimed rising act Penny Peaches as opener on August 7th, and Palomino Grant winner Ross Thorne on August 21st. Glen Sheen marketing manager Mike Mayo said at the news conference that over 12,800 people attended concerts on the pier last year, with attendance on a given night routinely running from 1,500 to over 2,000. Concerts on the pier are part of Glen Sheen's free Wednesday night event series, which begins in June with 4 beer garden events featuring suds from local breweries. Each concert this summer will begin with an opening set from 5:30 to 6 p.m., with the headliner following from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Details are available at glensheen.org. It's time now for this week's Business Beat with Duluth News Tribune business reporter Brielle Bredsten.
Chick-fil-A is coming. You may notice the former Park State Bank building near Miller Hill Mall is no more. It recently was demolished to make room for a new Chick-fil-A with a drive-thru, which could be up and running as early as August. The demolition performed by Rachel Contracting LLC was valued at $56,000, and the new restaurant is valued at $850,000, according to city permits issued in late April. Prairie Contractors will perform the work. The site is owned by Simon Property Group, and the same entity owns the Miller Hill Mall. NLX proponents are chugging along. As the October deadline approaches for the Minnesota Department of Transportation to apply for federal funding that would drive the Northern Lights Express over the finish line, community stakeholders gathered to drive up support. Downtown Duluth hosted a luncheon at the Garden on May 14th to launch the visioning process for the line and to explore what it would mean for the city's future economic landscape. During the event, St. Louis County Commissioners, Vice Chair Annie Harala of District 1 and Board Chair Keith Nelson of District 6 discussed the status of the proposed NLX, as well as the plans for upgrading the historic St. Louis County Depot to accommodate a new train station. Harala indicated that local stakeholders plan to issue a request for proposal for a new or updated design for the station by early summer. An economic development study will also be conducted and community input will be sought. There's been peaks and valleys in this process, said Nelson, who has been signed onto the project since its inception nearly 2 decades ago. He said, "Right now, we're not at a peak, but we're headed there," end quote. The federal government currently has $3 billion in funding earmarked specifically for rail projects. There are currently 67 projects nationwide that are eligible for the Federal Railroad Administration funding, with Minnesota being the only state in the country that has the necessary 20% match for its nearly $1 billion project, billion with a B, Commissioner said. The Minnesota legislature has $194.7 million in place already, which Nelson hopes to be matched at the federal level by more than $777 million, in other words, 80%. For the overall $970 million needed. I'm Brielle Bredsten. Send me some business tips at bbredsten@duluthnews.com.
Now here's a look at your forecast, brought to you by Superior Telegram's history podcast, Archive Dive.
Weather for the Duluth area today, looking at rain showers likely again this afternoon with high temperatures in the low 50s. Then we'll be looking at temperatures dropping down into the mid-40s for tonight. We'll see the rain chances move on out. And then for Friday, plenty of sunshine and breezy. High temperatures in the mid-60s. We'll be looking at a chance of showers and storms overnight Friday into early Saturday morning, and then another breezy day with chances of showers, high around 70 degrees. I'm Storm Tracker meteorologist Robert Pointer.
Thank you to Archive Dive for their support. The monthly history podcast, hosted by Superior Telegram reporter Maria Lockwood, dips into the archives of historic events, people, and places around Superior and Douglas County. A new episode titled The Bridges of Douglas County is now available at superiortelegram.com or wherever you also get this podcast. Reporting for today's episode was done by Peter Passy, Jay Gabler, and Brielle Bredsten. Thank you for listening to Duluth News Tribune Minute. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.